Hey guys, it's Monday. It's a little early, but I thought it'd be nice to just share with you while I'm walking home. Let me know if you're here watching the replay by dropping a comment in. And if you're here live and you can't hear me, let me know. But I'm going to try and take a quieter road in a second. Got 5 things I want to share, maybe 6. And let's start with what I got up to this weekend. It was so nice to get some socializing in during lockdown in person. Oh, breaking the rules. Let me walk this way a bit. Breaking the rules. Yes, we went out yesterday. We went and saw some friends. What did that look like? We went out and saw some friends that live on a ranch about an hour north of LA. And we kept our distance. We had face masks on. We didn't come within more than 6 feet most of the time, maybe if we're just walking by or something, but we hung out at a distance in person, and it was awesome. It was so good to be in the same space, even though we're kind of spread out and talking but you could see each other, could almost smell each other. It was great. And also my friend Teo's got like 35 wolves up on his ranch. He has a wolf sanctuary there, and some of the wolves are domesticated and they kind of hang out at the house, and so kids got to play with the wolves. So his kids were there, another friend of mine and his kids. And it was so good. It's been over a month since we've been around anybody. And I think this is really important and really relevant, this conversation around the impact that social distancing has on our psychology, on our sense of feeling connected and our immune system, and how it can create more possibility for us to get sick by being sad because we're alone. It doesn't have to be conscious, by the way. A lot of these things operate beneath the level of consciousness. This sense of being disconnected. You might intellectually think, I'm okay, but your body is not feeling okay, and it makes you more likely to get sick if you're getting near any kind of germs or virus. And so it was really nice just to feel that refueling. Even my wife, who's an introvert, felt so sourced by being around other people. So, introversion, extroversion, it's a sliding scale, but we're more alike in that we need to be with people than we are different in that way. So even introverts need to be around people right now. So that was awesome. And also it's just another, there's rules that we're supposed to follow. Like, don't go to the beach, don't do this, don't do that. And we can just follow them and not think about it, or we can actually look at the situation and decide our own rules. And I'm not saying that you should go and deny them all and just do whatever you want. I think it's also important to think about society, but I'm practicing reminding myself that I do not need to follow the rules because I've identified such a strong fear of breaking rules. And it's really interesting because so much of my life has been going outside the rules, but I haven't figured out what the subset of rules are that I just have no choice but to follow, but they're certainly there. I mean, I didn't touch any drugs my entire life until suddenly it became legal in California, and then I bought edibles and it's marijuana, and I'm like, there's something going on there, right? My dad was a cop, so I probably have a fear of breaking those rules, legal rules. There's some kind of rules that I just can't question it. And so I'm having fun exploring the edges of that. And so creating this own rule where, hey, we can leave our house. We don't have to stay at home and we can socialize, but we're also going to be practicing social distancing and being respectful in that way. So anyway, the point is, think for yourself in this time of quarantine. Don't follow the rules. Create a relationship with the purpose behind the rules where you do what you need to do, like the speed limit. Yeah, you follow the speed limit, but unless there's something more important than the speed limit to you, that you decide, you drive faster. Maybe somebody's about to have a baby. Speaking of which, that's happening soon. So my wife is 7 months pregnant, Kalpna, and we're getting the house ready. But what also we're doing is we're getting ready relationship-wise, the dynamic between us, getting her mind ready for this birth. I don't know if maybe I've shared with you that she birthed our first son, our only existing son, naturally, meaning she didn't have any medication, she didn't take any pills, didn't have an injection. She basically used a breath practice and a meditation and a mindfulness technique to breathe the baby out. She didn't even push until the last second because the doctor really encouraged her to. She's really adamant this time that she won't push at all. that pushing isn't necessary, that we've been taught that culturally. It's a wild idea, but man, I was blown away by it when she did it. And so she's getting into the mindset of that again, revisiting all the hypnobirthing techniques and creating the mindfulness that she needs, but also the connection to her body and the vision of the baby just coming out of her healthily, easily. And so when she's doing that, I want to help, right? And so I want to get in that conversation and talk about what she's doing with her mind. Of course I do, that's my interest as a coach as well. But that hasn't gone too well. That's me stepping beyond the domain where I can be supportive. And so I was talking about this Kiara this morning, and it was like the areas where I'm finding it that I can be supportive are in creating all of the conditions that she needs to feel safe to do what she wants to do in her way. And so that's where I'm putting most of my attention, and really where I want to put all of my attention is like, what do you need? You know, it's like she had a conversation with a doula. She's going to hire a doula. I already set up the conversation with the nanny. I was like, talk to the nanny about, finances and what we're going to pay and how much time she's got. And then she can talk to my wife about like what kind of support she needs. Like my wife's like, I need a new bra. I'm like, just get it. Get whatever you need to be comfortable. Focus on creating conditions that make it safe for her to express herself in whatever way she wants to. And if I tread too far into the domain of helping her to solve things, it's like she lets me know when I've gone too far really quickly. Sirens go off, an attitude, and like it's becoming more and more clear. But so then how do I feel like I'm doing enough? Because it's hard sometimes to feel like you're doing enough when what you're doing is creating conditions instead of actually being inside the pot and inside the mix and actually talking about how you're going to handle it, how you're going to do it. So for me, it just takes consciously reminding myself that creating the container, creating the space for her to explore herself and do her thing is actually super, super important. There's a lot of value in creating the structure of a container. I was talking with a woman the other day who was a chemist, and we were connecting on this equation, PV equals nRT, which is a thermodynamics equation, and it's about how pressure times volume essentially equals temperature, and some constants, but like as you increase the temperature, you need a stronger container to hold that intensity. And so the stronger of a container I can create for my wife, the more she's going to be possible to create. So I have to find that my purpose, how I'm going to birth our son naturally through her, is to create a container that's strong enough for her to produce that magic. And actually, once I start to look at it that way, it's like, oh wow, I'm doing this. I won't say this to her maybe in a certain context she'd get it, but like I have as much a role to play in birthing our son naturally as she does, because without the conditions, she can't do that, right? Without the education, without the support, without the space to practice, without a person standing there and reminding her of the techniques throughout the birth. I did that as well last time. Trigger words that I was using. Which leads me to another point I was just thinking of. My friend James and I were talking about this over the weekend. That like, you can't make a person do something. But if the conditions are right, then a person can't not do something, because the people are really the result of their conditions to a large degree. So if you can change the conditions, you can almost make anybody do anything, which could be used in a fucked up way. I mean, that's what a lot of mass manipulation is, right? But if I can supportively create circumstances that make it easy for my wife to naturally birth our son, then I've done that. So I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm saying that's a position that I take that gives me a sense of purpose in creating the boundaries and the structure so that I don't tread beyond that into a domain that really should be hers, because that's where her power is. So it's a way of thinking about it that gives me a sense of purpose and fulfillment, whereas otherwise it might feel like I'm not doing enough. I also want to talk about connecting. I'll connect back in with my wife in a second, and like kind of our deep relating in this time of quarantine and captivity. But first I'll touch on that I was in conversation with my men's group the other day. We did a virtual meeting. We're going to do another one this week, which is great. Because just being in conversation with other men right now, especially men that are conscious and thinking about their emotional body and thinking about spirit and thinking about how they can be a protector and a leader for their family and not living as an expression of fear that's my ideal, but being in conversation with other men who are living and practicing that ideal is really supportive. And so this week we were talking, and it was just great to connect with guys who could see eye to eye around this idea, this way of being with their wives and their partners that from the outside or on paper might look like patriarchy or just unhealthy, old school 1950s way of relating where you're being too macho. On paper, it can look like that, but actually, especially in the circumstances, it's the perfect and most loving thing. Case in point, I'm walking by a auto workshop. Sorry for the noise. I don't know, 10 days into quarantine, my wife sent me a text while I was on the phone with a friend, and she said, her text said I'm going to the co-op, it's our local grocery store, and with Asher, there's some stuff I need to get. And I said to my friend, I got to call you right back. And I just hung up and I called my wife, and literally out of my mouth came the words, "You're not going to the co-op, turn around, I'll go later." She's like, "Okay." And then I hung up and I called my friend back, and I was like, that was weird. I've been with my wife 10 years and I never told her what to do. Never once have I said, this is what you're doing or you're not doing that. It's that's just not my style. But it just came out of me. It was boom, this is what's happening. Turn around, you're not going. And she was like, okay. And it was spontaneous. And it was an expression of my love and desire to protect her. And she was okay with it. And actually just yesterday I was asking her about it. I was like, do you remember that? And she's like, yeah, I remember. I was like, you don't typically like me telling you what to do. And I don't even really do that. She's like, yeah, but she reflected back to me that she knew that I was doing it to protect her and to take care of her. And so typically I'd be like, hey babe, maybe you shouldn't go. Maybe I should go for you. Would you be okay with that? A gentle inquiry, an invitation to that possibility. But it was boom, a directive. But she responded well. And so we were talking about patriarchy is not giving commands. Patriarchy is giving commands from fear that if I don't control you, then I'm not safe. And it was actually, so it's where does it come from that creates the experience of patriarchy? And I think there's a deep reality to that. And so right now in this time of quarantine, our roles are becoming more defined. She's a little bit more of a homemaker than she actually truly and really is, just because of the constraints on our life right now. That's what's functionally working, where I'm focusing more on the business. And this is supposed to be the year of cooking, but I've been cooking less since the quarantine. I was doing it more and now I'm doing it less. And it's is that wrong? Is that bad? Well, it's coming from love, and we're actually doing so well. I was saying to my friend the other day, it's fucking weird how good everything is going, our relationship, our health, business. I know that's not the case for a lot of people, and it feels a bit like what's going on, but and I'm not going to give the credit all to us, but that's part of it. Part of it is our intention, part of it is circumstances. But anyway, it's this realizing that it's okay to live from the heart in a way that kind of gives directives and gives orders out. It's the quality of the experience that matters. And it takes communication. If my wife had said to me she felt different about that, then that would have been good insight for me in a different direction. But in any case, it seemed to work. Hey Phil, I see you signed on. Looking forward to our chat in a little bit. Thanks for being here, man. What else did I want to share? So there's the Wolves, there's the men's group, there's my wife, pregnancy. I was just mentioning business is going really well. It's crazy. I've created more money since lockdown than I did in the previous quarter. So it's been 30 days. It's going really well. And my industry in particular is very tightly connected to what's happening psychologically in the world. It's not like I'm a restaurant and my doors are shut. I can still function and make money. But a lot of people in my industry are finding it more difficult to make money, whereas I'm finding it easier to make money right now. And it's and I think that's because in my industry in particular, what's determining whether or not people are continuing with this work, sometimes it's their resources. If the income is shut off, they literally have no cash flow. But most of it, I think, is about how a person prioritizes something like coaching and being in conversation and having that kind of support right now. And I see a polarization. I see some people saying, oh, this is not essential right now, and I'm going to pull back. I've had a few people in my membership thing pull back and say now's not the time. But there's another group of people who are saying, holy moly, now is the time for this, and they're moving forward. And so there's that, and then I think it really comes down to where I put my attention. I just happen to put my attention on that second group, and so things seem to be working. So that's cool. The last thing I wanted to talk about was, are we on time? Oh, we're good. Was the Today Show, which I don't watch, but I got some emails from a woman named Melanie, who I remember speaking with once after we connected on LinkedIn, and she does a cool thing. She's a blogger or writer for some kind of higher profile mainstream news outlets, and so one of the outlets she writes for is a Today Show blog, and she was sending these emails like, have your be featured on the Today Show blog and be able to put the Today Show logo on your website. It's like whatever, it was like $500 for an article. I got a few of her emails, and I was like, man, one of the things that I've been really enjoying since this quarantine is having a reason to be out there in conversation, helping people in a wider way. So I've presented to groups of 100